Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and of course opinions. Happy Friday. Today is September 9th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, U.S. Senate candidate Charles Booker joins us to talk about the Kentucky Senate race against Rand Paul. We'll learn more about his plan to defeat the long-term senator. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is appealing a federal judge's ruling that stops them from looking at classified documents found at Donald Trump's Florida home. We'll have details coming up. Then we'll tell you about a black Florida man who was arrested for voting, even though he had a voter registration card. Why the man says he was set up, we'll explain.
Plus, we'll tell you about Tabitha Brown's book tour and why it's important to cook from your spirit. And you don't want to miss our hilarious guests for our weekly topics with a little side eye. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth. So let's get it.
It's a little more than 2 months before the midterm elections, and Democrats are hoping for an upset win in Kentucky in the U.S. Senate race there. Charles Booker is the state's Democratic nominee. He's trying to unseat Senator Rand Paul. Now, Booker just picked up an important endorsement from Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Joining us today to talk more about his campaign is Charles Booker himself. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely honored to be with you.
Thank you. So let's talk about this endorsement from the governor of Kentucky. He said Kentuckians deserve a senator that fights for good jobs, access to high quality, affordable health care, and is a champion for public education. Is that what you will bring to the state of Kentucky?
Absolutely. I am running for U.S. Senate not because I want a title, but because I really do want things to change, and I know that we can do it together. And it really is about building coalitions across partisan divides, across geography, and having leaders that show up for us. And so Governor Beshear's endorsement really is a true testament to what we're building and the fact that we are going to not just beat Rand Paul, but win our future.
Mm-hmm. You are the first black Democratic nominee in the state of Kentucky. How has that impacted your campaign as you go up against Senator Rand Paul?
You know, it's incredibly humbling. It's sort of hard to put to words the magnitude of the history that we're making. I feel it every day with every person I talk to. And honestly, we can hear the ceiling shatter. We can see the walls and the silos that have been blocking so many people out coming down with every relationship that we build. And Rand Paul really is the truest opportunity to show what democracy can do. Mm-hmm. He has built out of opposing democracy. He is friends with Jim Crow. And because we are organizing in communities that have been ignored and forgotten about, and we're telling a real story from the hood to the holler, as I often say, we're inspiring a movement, and we will help protect our pursuit of democracy as a country.
Mm-hmm. You know, I want to talk about hood to holler. We'll get there in a second, but I wanted to talk about your first campaign commercial you had with the noose around your neck. What was the idea behind that, and how did it play with the voters in your state?
You know, that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I appreciate creativity. Both my parents are ministers. I understand the power of storytelling. And I wanted to help tell a very personal story about what it means to deal with structural racism and how it's weaponized by people like Rand Paul. Because while he's playing games with our lives, as I speak in that video, my ancestors here in Kentucky were enslaved. Some of them were lynched. And I am talking about these painful challenges, not because we're often dealing with ropes in a figurative sense now, but because we are being held back by division and because we're not having leaders that face our challenges. And so lifting up that truth and being vulnerable in that way has really inspired a lot of Kentuckians, people that voted for Trump, people that never voted before, voted for Bernie Sanders, to get involved with this campaign because they know it's really about fighting for our future and standing up in the truth.
Let's talk about some of those voters, because African Americans make up 8.5% of Kentucky voters. Now, Donald Trump beat President Biden by 26 percentage points in 2020. How hard is it, do you think, will it be to flip a red state to blue come this November?
Oh, well, our task is uphill, but not because it's going to be hard. Our challenge is cynicism. And look, I'm from the hood. I'm from the West End of Louisville. And a lot of the challenges that I've experienced, being on food stamps and free lunch, being homeless, my mom and I at the time, rationing my insulin as a type 1 diabetic, having cousins murdered year after year. I've had 7 cousins murdered since 2016. This story is not really that unique. And when I travel across Kentucky, although they may not always look like me or come from where I come from, they understand those struggles. And so we're speaking to the real issues. And that's why people that voted for Trump are organizing on my campaign. People that never voted before are getting involved. And so we're going to blow Rand Paul out and really make a statement of what it looks like when regular people actually stand together. It's a new Southern strategy, if you will.
Yeah, we'd like to hear that. Talking about understanding struggles, how important is it for Black people nationwide, though, to turn out and vote this November?
I have said it over and over again, and I believe that this election cycle will define our pursuit of democracy. I say pursuit because we're still trying to get it right. And Kentucky can be the brightest example of it because we've been one of the most disenfranchised states. And for Black Kentuckians, for Black Americans, for Black people, but for all of us, we really are trying to fight against structural inequity and structural racism that cripples everyone. And I believe that we can be that example as one of the poorest states in the country, people that have often been ignored and blocked from the ballot box. By us running a turnout campaign and training our people to get involved and organize and lead, we'll win at the federal level, but we'll win at the state and local level too. So I'm excited about the history we're going to make.
And I'm excited about your Hood to Holler movement. Can you explain exactly what it is and how it works?
Absolutely. From the hood to the holler is our rallying cry. It is people from the forgotten places lifting our voices and standing as family. A lot of people may not know what a holler is. The geography is beautiful. It's in between the hills. These are often in rural communities, but they have so much in common with folks living in the hood like I do. And it's our understanding, the power of the Rainbow Coalition, the realization that structural racism is hurting all of us. And if we come together on our common bonds, we can change our future. And that's exactly what we're doing, which again is bigger than beating Rand Paul, but we'll beat him in the process.
Mr. Berger, I want to talk a little bit about some of the key issues that are most important to your campaign. Can you let our soulmates know?
Absolutely. My focus for this race is lifting up what I call a Kentucky New Deal. Life, freedom, and prosperity for every single person. And I'm very clear in my work. I want to end poverty. I want to uproot structural racism and inequity. And that means we invest in people. We invest in our infrastructure. We help create true wealth and ownership and opportunities in communities that have been criminalized and abandoned. So we enact policies like legalization. We put provisions in place like Medicare for all so that everyone has quality health care. We lift up financial freedom, supporting organized labor, but also a policy like universal basic income, something Dr. King spoke about. We can make these deep investments by expanding the Senate, getting rid of a Rand Paul, and standing up for regular people. And that is what I'm going to do. And I'm asking everyone to go to charlesbooker.org to help us do that.
Yes. One thing that I saw last month that kind of made me smile was Jamie Harrison, chair of the Democratic National Committee, held a rally with you. How important is it to have the DNC backing to your candidacy?
Well, having my brother Jamie Harrison come to Kentucky was a huge statement. I realize that a lot of the national pundits don't pay much attention to Kentucky. We're often written off and dismissed. But what we're building here is real. This is lasting infrastructure. And to see Jamie Harrison, the DNC, folks across the country taking note of what we're doing from the ground up is a powerful testament to regular people. And I hope we can inspire this movement across the country.
And before we end, just end with, what is your vision for Kentucky and why should people be paying attention to these races?
My vision for Kentucky, similar to my vision for this country, is a time when poverty is a thing of the past. A time when everyone can live out their dreams, no matter who they are, the color of their skin, who they love, where everyone can be safe. No one's door is busted down in the dead of night like Breonna Taylor's was. That we can all have our voice heard in this democracy, in this government that is supposed to be accountable to us. And by running at a time when there's so much division, so much hatred, and lifting up love and unity, we're bending that arc that Dr. King spoke of, and we will shock the world on November 8th.
We will shock the world on November 8th. We'll have to leave it there. Charles Booker, U.S. Senate candidate for the state of Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wonderful interview, Mimi. I'm sure that's going to touch a lot of lives in the city. The Justice Department is asking a federal judge to revisit her decision to temporarily stop prosecutors from getting access to classified documents taken from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. DOJ lawyers say they will appeal key parts of Judge Eileen Cannon's ruling. They say her decision hinders the government's efforts to find what national security was compromised with. The records also that are being stored at Trump's estate is what we're talking about here, soulmates. Now, the judge's order, it stops the DOJ from using those documents in its investigation of Trump until a special master can identify and set aside any materials potentially protected by attorney, client, or executive privilege.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Senate will vote to protect gay marriage in the coming weeks. Schumer says he has a bipartisan group to back a bill to safeguard same-sex marriage. The issue has come to the forefront after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Shortly after that happened, Justice Clarence Thomas suggested gay marriage could come under review by the court.
A new ad from Dr. Oz's Senate campaign is attacking the Pennsylvania lieutenant governor for an incident years ago where John Fetterman pulled a gun on an unarmed black man.
As mayor of Braddock, John Fetterman chased down an innocent, unarmed black man.
He says Fetterman
followed me into North Braddock and pulled a shotgun and aimed it at my chest.
Fetterman falsely accused the man, triggering a confrontation with police.
A conservative political ad action committee is paying for the ad. They hope it will either get black voters to cast a ballot for Dr. Oz or not go to the polls at all. Now, the incident happened in 2013. Fetterman chased down a black jogger in his pickup truck and held him at bay with a 12-gauge shotgun. When it happened, Fetterman was mayor. He says that he heard a gunshot and ran out the house, and that's when he saw a black man jogging by. Fetterman apologized for his actions when it came to light during a Democratic primary debate earlier this year. Listen, I hate when black people are put in the position where they have to vote for the lesser of two evils, right? I am not a fan of John Fetterman. He is a Democratic Democratic candidate, but what he did in this instance in 2003, and then he really sort of kind of apologized. It was like a half-assed apology. It's like, what do? We're put in this position where we don't align with the views of Dr. Oz, the Republican views, and we don't really want to vote for him. What do? You can't stay at home, because when you stay at home, you see what happens, right? And that's kind of what we went through with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And so it's like, we never have a clear path to, what we want, what's best for us. We're always trying to figure out the lesser of two evils.
I was literally, when you were talking, I was going to say that is exactly what has happened. I feel like after Obama, of course, and before Obama, there was never a clear candidate that we felt very comfortable about. I will say last election with Kamala Harris, I did feel like, wow, here we go again, someone that I feel confident voting for. But like you said, Mimi, it does feel like there is nobody that is absolutely 100% wholeheartedly fighting for us, where we can just go into the election feeling confident. Because you know what, we don't have enough time to talk about what happened with Hillary Clinton, but I, even myself as a woman, right, it was so much women's empowerment that you would have thought that women would have ran to the polls. But still, with a woman running for president, it still wasn't enough to go out and get it, push it all the way through. That it's just, no one's ever going to be happy enough for everybody, but it would feel nice at some point to feel like, wow, this candidate really is the one.
Yeah, so the Oz candidate, his people spent $500,000 on this, trying to really push this over the top. Some of this reminds me of Rodney King, and I'm gonna tell you why. We know Rodney King got beat. This man got a shotgun pulled on him because he did apologize. He said he forgave him for what he did later, and this same man that the shotgun was pulled on was arrested later, but for a whole different reason. So when I talk about track records of the past of the black person that we're talking about between Rodney King and this young man, but at the end of the day, what happened to him should have never happened. I believe it was fireworks. But yet it led to this man pulling a 12-gauge shotgun. We know how it probably could have ended, because it's ended bad so many times before. So at the end of the day, only 11% of black people in Pennsylvania can vote on this situation. who do they go for?
That's the thing.
Like,
who do you vote for?
Yeah.
It's so scary. It's like a lot of people, not only Rodney King, but they're saying it's like Ahmaud Arbery, because this man was clearly just jogging by, and he saw a black man, came outside, and just shot him because he assumed that the black man was the guy who had shot the gun, which turned out to be fireworks. So it's like, you know, we need to send a Democrat to Congress, right? We don't need to send another Republican to Congress because we need President Biden to be able to get his agenda through. And so it's like, what do you do? It's
this
like,
is our choice.
This is our choice.
This is it.
This is our choice.
But, you know, and also, too, when you have choices like this where you can't make a decision, a clear decision, this is what wholeheartedly makes people not go and vote at all.
But that's
as a
what they're
result,
hoping.
that's what they're hoping.
Yes,
because
that's
as a result.
That's why they released this ad, because they want black people to stay at home. And as much as it pains me to say, you know, we have to show up and vote, or else, you know, we'll just be more of Trump's agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, hopefully those in Georgia don't have too hard of
Pennsylvania.
Well, I'm saying in Georgia. I'm saying in Georgia, but we have like Raphael Warnock and stuff. Hopefully it's not too hard for them. All right, Michael Regan, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, says Jackson, Mississippi should receive its fair share of federal money to fix its troubled water system. His comments comes days after the city has water running in homes and businesses yet again. Residents were left without clean running water after the incident, and the water system, it collapsed earlier this month. Regan met with residents and city officials this week. The EP administrator, he says that the city will receive more than $4 billion from Washington. He also says that money comes out of the $1 trillion infrastructure bill that President Biden signed into law earlier this year.
A federal judge says an Obamacare rule that requires employers to pay for an HIV prevention drug violates the Texas business owner's religious beliefs. Back in 2018, the same judge, Reed O'Connor, ruled that Obamacare was invalid as a law. His decision was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. The challenge to the law was brought by Stephen Holtz, a conservative activist who helped defeat a proposed law that would allow transgender students to use any bathroom they wanted.
A 19-year-old man in Memphis is being charged with first-degree murder for a killing rampage that left 4 people dead. Ezekiel DeJuan Kelly was arrested Wednesday after a manhunt that shut down the city. Police say one of Kelly's murders was streamed live on Facebook. 3 people survived the shootings. Kelly has a history of violence. He faced 4 felony charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder in 2020 when he was 17 years old. Now, police say they are still looking for a motive in the killings.
A Miami man who is facing up to 5 years in prison for voter fraud says that he was set up. He says that he believed that his rights had been restored. Ronald Lee Miller, who had been in prison for murder, says that he was registered to vote in 2020 after a campaigner at a supermarket told him that he was eligible. Miller says that he was sent a voter registration card in the mail from the state, but Miller was arrested last month. He is one of 20 people in Florida rounded up by Governor Ron DeSantis' Elections, Crime, and Security Task Force. Most of the people arrested had served prison terms, but reportedly were still not able to vote legally. Some of their convictions were decades ago. The people said that they were not trying to break the law when they voted. This is not the first time that we've seen this. This story is very, very sad for this older gentleman to be at a supermarket thinking that he's doing the right thing here. Again, we're talking about those who are not exercising their right to vote or just deciding to stay home. This man decided, hey, you know, I'm formerly incarcerated. I want to exercise my natural born right to vote. They tell him that he's eligible. He gets it in the mail. He's thinking I'm okay. And then he gets arrested for it. And it's just a really, really, really sad story. But this, again, too, is another reason why Black Americans are fearful to even try. Because it's like, why would you want to get woken up? He said he was woken up in the wee hours of the night to armed officers. Who would want to even attempt to vote when you've been arrested before, right? You would be afraid of something like this happening to you as well.
I believe he was set up, like he says, him and the other people, because everyone who this happened to had a prior record, right? So they looked into this and they said, okay, who can we get to take the fall for this? Who will people believe? So if we arrest someone who was already convicted of murder, we arrest someone who was already convicted of an armed robbery, and we say, oh, they registered to vote or they voted illegally or whatever, the world will believe us. Floridians will believe us, and that's what they did here. And it is sad. Like they let him do all of these things only to come back and prove a point. That's, you know. He has a case if someone will take it and be able to prove.
Absolutely.
It's hard, but yeah.
Yeah, I just want to for our soulmates that have been previously incarcerated before and would like to vote, I don't want you to not vote at all. Just really quick to let you know, the only way for his situation, this might apply to some people, that you can get your voting rights restored, you have to file an application with the state's clemency board only if it's been 10 years since you completed your sentence, your probation, and your parole. So just for our soulmates who have previously been arrested and want to know what happens, there are some steps that you have to take.
And states, it differs by state, so you've got to look it up in your own state where you live at and what those look like for you. I don't know if this man took all the right steps. Maybe he did or did not, but the point is he was told, and so he went out, and I don't think he did it with ill intentions.
No, and just really quick, the people who also at the supermarket, who's to say that they're the most equipped, right? Because and this is not to demean, because this could be any of us that are just working to volunteer. It literally could have been an honest mistake with one of the people that didn't know to tell them these extra steps, and I'm with you. I don't think it was done with malice at all.
No, not at all. But that's great information for our soulmates.
Absolutely.
All right, black students and parents in Texas are demanding action after white people in the stands made monkey noises during a high school volleyball game. The Patel volleyball team is made up of black and Latino students. They traveled to the predominantly white Jordan High for the game. Parents filed the formal complaints with the Katy School District about the incident during a match between rival high schools last Friday. Officials with the Katy Independent School District say they are investigating the incident. We had a conversation similar to this yesterday. Mimi, and you said the parents need to be held responsible. This does fall on the parents, because at some point, if I know my son is out there doing something like this, something as ignorant as this, I'm going to show up and embarrass him in front of the entire school. Parents have to start stepping up, saying, look, kids, you know what's going on. You're not oblivious to this. You're not blind to this. You see it on TikTok. You see it on social media, the stories that come out each and every day with what's going on in our world, in our society, yet you still feel like that's okay to do that.
Yeah.
But if you meet one-on-one in the parking lot, what they going to do then?
Nothing. Act like they don't know you. Act like they didn't see you. Act like they didn't say nothing, because then they get scared. But there, they feel safe to do this. And I think it starts at home. I definitely think, where are they getting this from? Don't get me wrong, parents, as a parent, you don't know everything that your child is doing. But if you're teaching them the basics of human decency, come on now.
Yeah, because I think that on top of it being at home, I love TikTok as much as I love TikTok. I feel like there's so much vile stuff. There's a dark side to TikTok as well. Definitely. TikTok and Twitter. There are dark sides to both of those apps. And so I feel like if you know in your house that this is wrong, you won't be corrupt with it, because once you get on TikTok, TikTok will let you know that things like this are okay. TikTok will teach you that this is okay, this is funny, this is a joke, no one's going to be upset about it. But when you know already going into it before you wake up that this is wrong, once you see it on the internet as a young child, you'll know, I don't need to be a part of this. Because there was a lot of kids. Yeah. It was very loud. It wasn't like one kid doing monkey sounds. It was they all joined in together to do this to those black and Latino students.
And it was
just
them.
Yeah,
that's what they're saying,
exactly. Right.
Totally not fair
at all.